Respect for I mean bad well, no matter what decision you take at the end of the day, it will be I mean, what I figured was no matter what decision I take, like when you have the joke, when you work with it, chances are you don't know what to I was just talking to him. It's just their responsibility. Most of them are some of them become close. And to someone they can get it done, you become close. I would take the opportunity in art. A lot of we have a two tradition. I would have written class after 6:30. I would have on any other day, but
I think for the next one, let's go
it shows just such a
to open up your message at the same time for right now?
So about your tutorial presentations, you know you are supposed to submit a written copy, right? And please do it within 2 days of making your presentation. Now I'm wondering what would be the best way for them to do it. Can they upload it on Moodle? Email तो कर ही रहे हैं, but what's easier for record keeping?
Moodle.
So we'll have to make a sort of upload link, right? So then let's sort of consistently, let's ask them to upload it. Because then it's all there in one place and one doesn't have to keep track of. Okay? So please upload your presentations on Moodle. Alright? And you have to take this very seriously. It has to be done and it has to be done promptly. Okay? So we are having another round of tutorials today. Any sort of wrinkles will get ironed out in the course of this. Now the plan is to complete our conversation about the Golden Gate today. Of course, it's a much longer book, and it would be great if some of you are interested enough to read more of it. That will be fabulous. But for the purposes of the course, we will stop at the first chapter. The idea is to give you a flavor of a certain kind of writing, a certain kind of narrative style. Can you all please settle down and stop the murmuring? Thank you. What we want to do in this course is to give you a breadth, a sense of breadth, right? Where you get a sense of different ways in which stories can be told, right? Different styles in which narratives can be written. We will also be doing a more immersive kind of reading as well, where we will have a couple of texts that we read fully from start to finish. But we'll also be doing short stories and portions of texts. Now the reading for next Monday has already been posted on Moodle. It's a short story, and it's an unusual kind of short story in the sense that nothing significant happens in it. But it's a very kind of it's a very contemporary experience of what it means to be living in a big city, to be living in Bombay as a woman, as a single woman. Okay, so please read the entire story before you come. Okay, it's not very long. It's about 20 odd pages, I think. So not a long story and very simple. So please be sure to have read it before you come to class. And as usual, keep the text with you in whatever form, so that we'll go to portions and talk about them. All right. So back to the Golden Gate. Towards the end of this chapter is this very interesting animated sort of conversation between the two characters. Of course, it's quite wonderful to see how that conversation is engineered, right, and how it is made to fit into the parameters of a sonnet, but at the same time manages to mimic the rhythms of casual conversation. Yeah, so that's a tough act to pull. Right? Because on the one hand, you're writing a poem with very, with very definite sort of rules. But the one thing that a casual conversation between friends does not do is follow a definite set of rules. Correct? It's meant to be freewheeling. It goes off in all directions. So how do you put the two together? right? In this very relaxed, casual, open, freewheeling conversation that needs to be fitted into a very rigid, structured, tight sort of pattern. So that's it's this sort of tension between between the rules and the content, right? And the two are very contradictory. They are going in opposite directions. But I mean, we need to see how the text, how the writing manages to blend them together, to bring them together. And again, I mean, feel free to exercise your judgment. I mean, there may be places where it's not working, or it's not working for you. I mean, try and stop there and ask yourself, why is this seeming a little off? Why is this seeming a little awkward? That then tells us, that actually helps us understand that connection between form and content even better, right? By looking at the things that don't work, right? Where it's all working beautifully and smoothly, तो वो तो ठीक ही है. But there are also cases where sometimes things don't fit in. So stop there and ask yourself why that's not happening. Okay, don't automatically assume that because ये किताब है, इसको award मिला है, तो everything in it must be perfect. Yeah. Okay, so John then, who we remember we left him feeling very depressed, very lonely, not really knowing what to do in life, and also definitely not knowing what to do that particular evening, that particular Friday evening or Saturday evening, whatever it is. Yeah, so he tries calling, he tries reaching out to some of his old friends, but without much success. He now reaches out to an ex-girlfriend, Jan. We're looking at 1.18. John stands beside his phone, recalling Janet's warm beauty, smiling calm, her dark eyes, high-boned features, falling black ponytail, her vagrant charm. So we already have a little bit of background about Janet. She is a migrant, or an American, but a Japanese American, a second generation, third generation migrant. He thinks, I guess I'll be the wiser for talking to a sound advisor, right? So he's looking for some.
Now, what does vagrant mean?
Vagrant is someone who's wavered, right? Something that can't be contained on a straight path. Someone who's kind of going off in all directions. So as we already know a little bit about Janet, that she's an artist. And as we get to know her, you can see, right, as her personality is very, very different from that of John. She's a free spirit, basically, right? So even her charm is a very sort of open, free-spirited charm, while John's is sort of very straight-laced. No, he's a sort of suited, booted, proper. He's a proper kind of guy, while Janet is just a more adventurous and open sort of person. He thinks, I guess I'll be the wiser for talking to a sound advisor, right? Looking for some advice from a friend. He calls her, but this is for the second time that evening. He doesn't get a response. To his peeved surprise, an answering machine replies, requests his message, name and number, wait for the beep. John says, "It's me, John," and gives his number. Right? So he's too kind of low. He's too depressed at that point to leave a longer message. So this is really, I mean, it's you can imagine what a desultory kind of evening it must be for John, right? He's already feeling bad. He's already feeling lonely. He goes to get an ice cream to cheer himself up, but that doesn't help. It only kind of accentuates his own loneliness. He then tries reaching out to friends, but nobody's available to talk to him. So he really is in a deep despair at this point. Rather than encumber the brusque machine with his heart's woes, he wraps himself in pensive prose, right? So he chooses to just kind of try to lose himself in reading, right? He makes that choice rather than talking about his loneliness, and that too to a machine, right, to an answering machine. He thinks he'll kind of distract himself. So I mean, you can see that John is a cultured man, right? I mean, most people would kind of turn on the TV or reach out for beer, right? But he's quite a cerebral sort of person, right? He reads. That's his kind of fallback when there's nothing else. But what he chooses to read are, of course, things that reflect his own mood, right? So very sad, somber kind of texts. Life's Little Ironies by Thomas Hardy, whose novels are though wonderful, but they are very, very dark, right? So he writes these very depressing sort of novels. The Gloomier Sermons of John Donne, another poet who also was a clergyman and wrote sermons. The Zibaldone of Leopardi, The Queen of Spades, right? So these are all sort of, we don't have to go into specific details, but these are in general texts that are kind of somber, right? Texts that are gloomy and sad, and they match John's mood at the moment. At 10 to 1, from the crevasse of melancholy in which he is now buried wholly, right? So by 1 o'clock at night, he is really kind of buried deep into this pit of gloom and depression. But suddenly the phone rings, right? Loud and clear, and it's Janet. Hello, John. Are you okay? What's going on? I just got back. I thought I'd phone you, although it's late. You sounded bad on the machine, more tired and sad than in the whole time that I've known you. Right? So she even from the very little that John says on the answering machine, she's able to gauge that he's not sounding good. And as a concerned friend, she immediately calls back. It's nothing. So they decide to meet for lunch the next day, 16th Street. So as you can see, there is this run-on now, and that will happen frequently because Janet, it kind of a conversation cannot be contained within sonnets, no? Conversations continue, and so there are many instances now of the same conversation continuing through sonnets. Right? One poem has ended, this next one has begun, but the conversation has not stopped. Right? The same person is continuing to talk. So there is a great deal of that that is happening, but it also it's not just a necessity or a narrative need. It's also a way of telling us something about the personality of Janet. Right? It's also a way of telling us something about the relationship between these two people. Because once John, once he gets over his stiffness and actually sort of starts, eases up and starts chatting, John also becomes a different kind of person. Right? And John's conversation also becomes, more relaxed, more leisurely. Right? So in this, in this device of using words to continue, even though the poem has ended, but the conversation kind of cuts across that and continues, carries on in the next stanza. It is of course functional. It is fulfilling a function. Right? The conversation is longer and it can't fit into 14 lines, and so of course it will go on. But it is also telling us something about the character. Yes, it is. It's an insight into the kind of person Janet is. Yes, sort of free-flowing, right? Someone who doesn't, she doesn't think too much before acting. I mean, she's not afraid to call someone up at one at night, right? just because she felt they sounded really lonely. So, insights into a character's consciousness, or insights into a character's personality may come, of course, from the things they say, but they also come from the way they are written about. Right? And in this case, the writing, the overspill of the writing gives us an important clue into Janet's, into the kind of person Janet is. So so she kind of tells him where to meet, a Chinese restaurant, not a particularly plush place, not the kind of place John is probably used to. And we get that sense from the next couple of stanzas, because so she says, let's meet at 1. The Shujing, it's well frequented, food's great. Right? So it's a great little place. Next day, not quite at ease, John shows up early, cologne scented, hyper immaculate, sits and sees families, lovers, inter alia, a circus clown in full regalia. But as the hope hour strokes its thumb, he fidgets. Janet hasn't come. Yes, so John sort of stands out. Yes, he's not blending in. He's not fitting in with the setting. It's a regular sort of place, not a fancy restaurant, but he's overdressed. He's sitting there alone. Right, so this is something we see about John constantly. Yes, someone who stands a little aloof from his surroundings. So he's gone there all cologne scented, but the people around him are just families or children. Among them, there's also a circus clown who's sitting there. Janet is late. John is someone who had come a few minutes early, right? Again, these are good clues to their personalities. Yes, Janet is always kind of rushing around from one place to another, not someone whose life is very orderly. John, works according to schedule, never a minute late. So now he's sitting there getting more and more impatient, feeling very out of place, feeling alone again. Deaf to the path of music sounding, O little town of Bethlehem, anachronistically at them. Anachronistic because it doesn't fit in with the time. It's a Christmas song, but it's nowhere near Christmas. No, we've been told it's September. So John is just sitting there getting irritated by that music that's playing, while the patrons dine with zest. Right, everyone around him is having a great time. Right, everyone around him is enjoying the food. Rebounding off plastic chairs and grubby floor, the notes merge with the squeaking door. Yes. Now all of this is the things that are being noticed about this restaurant. What is being noticed about the restaurant? What is the text telling us about this restaurant?
That everyone else is happy and having fun.
But in terms of the physical description, just the physical description of this place.
Doesn't sound a very expensive place.
That it's not, it's a sort of cheap place. Yes, it's not a posh place. Now, who is noticing this with such clarity? It's John, no? So this is once again, the narrative has taken on the eyes of John. So the constant irritation. John is the one who's irritated, right? There is the music playing. It's not even it's not even Christmas yet, but they're playing some random Christmas song. The plastic chairs look horrible. There's the door that squeaks every time someone comes in or out. Okay? So the shoddiness of the place is what strikes John, right away. Yes, that is the first thing he notices about it. Yes, it is not in keeping with what he would have liked. This is not the kind of place he frequents. He is uncomfortable there. So the details that are chosen. For instance, someone else could come in there and just think, just talk about the lovely fragrance of the food, right? Or someone else could come in there and talk about the happy people chatting there. But no, John notices things according to his own the perspective, the viewpoint that he embodies. So this sort of ugly place that he's not really very happy with. John thinks. Okay, now we have his own words, right? His own thoughts to himself. He thinks, it's not that I'm fastidious, but I wish they'd turn the music down, right? So he's already kind of making a little disclaimer first, right? It's not like I'm overly fastidious, but really, this music is really horrible. They should really turn it down. It's gross. That calendar is hideous. He stares at the distasteful clown. Again, the word distasteful the clown is distasteful, not to everyone else, but to John, right? So it's through the choice of the specific choice of words that we kind of inhabit John's mind, right, for a few seconds. We become John for a few seconds, and we see that restaurant the way John is looking at it, or the way it makes itself available to John, right, because he is looking at it from a particular kind of perspective. I've waited half an hour, blast her. Her hands encased in clay and plaster. Janet arrives at 12 to 2. So Janet running from one place to another. Her hands are still covered in clay. She's obviously been trying to work on some sculpture. So sorry, John. I had to do this torso. Yes, I tried to hurry. I'm glad you've got yourself a beer. What's that? Tsingtao? Don't look severe. I didn't mean for you to worry. You ordered? No? This place is fun. What do you have? It's family run. Yes, so Janet, immediately you can sense her energy. Yeah, this is a person who's sort of always on the move, right? She's sort of going from one thing to another. She's also kind of trying to pacify John because she knows he's upset. He's been waiting for 45 minutes for her. So the moment Janet enters this picture, the story, it takes on a faster rhythm, and very soon we see that John is also kind of affected by that rhythm. John's personality also starts to change. He starts talking in a more lively way. Yes, so this meeting between friends it clearly means a great deal to John. However different the two of them are, and they are very, very different, but it's quite obvious that the bond between them is a real and strong one. So the food arrives as soon as ordered. Impressed and ravenous, John relents. Right. So by then, John has kind of deigned to be impressed. Right. The food is delicious, and now John is in a better mood. So he's not just looking at the bad things about the place. He's actually now ready to look at some favorable aspects of that restaurant. His chopsticks fasten on beef bordered with broccoli. Enticing scents swim over the noise, the greasy table. 2 bottles each of beer enable small talk and large. So beer, always helps the conversation. Their mood is better now. There's good food to eat. So they now start chatting, and John behaves at last less stiffly, if not sadly. right? So he's still a bit low, he's still a bit sad, but at least he's not so kind of angry and upset anymore. How are the cats? Just fine. So this is sort of small, polite conversation with which one usually starts before getting to the real business. To which then John proceeds, Jan, I don't know what's wrong. I'm young, employed, healthy, ambitious, sound, solvent, self-made, self-possessed, but all my symptoms are pernicious. The Dow Jones of my heart's depressed, the Dow Jones index, yes, and that's, so basically, John uses the language he knows, yes, which is the language of the market, the language of capital, but so for whatever reason, even though on the face of it everything should be going great for me, but I'm not able to break out of this sense of emptiness. The sunflower of my youth is wilting, the tower of my dreams is tilting, the zoom lens of my zest is blurred, the drama of my life's absurd. What is the root of my neurosis? Like why do I have this kind of mental illness? Why am I so depressed? I jog, I eat brewer's yeast every day. Brewer's yeast is some kind of nutritional supplement. And yet I feel life slip away. I await your sapient diagnosis, sapient, wise. I wait for your diagnosis. I die, I faint, I fail, I sink. So this is what's happening here. This is John, right? This is John speaking in the first person. And there are quotation marks. So this is John who's talking himself. But what is the tone that he adopts? What do you think of the way in which he's speaking?
Dramatic.
Very dramatic. Very dramatic. And why do you think he's adopted this kind of dramatic tone?
Because he had beer.
Okay, he had beer.
Because he is used to reading all the kind of novels.
He's used to?
Reading the similar kind of novels, Adidas City.
Oh, okay. Okay. But this is dramatic like a Hindi film song. Yeah. Somebody started speaking?
He is also not in a good mood, I think, because like Janet is already late and he's not really enjoying the beginning. So like, maybe that might be fine.
Janet also brings this style out of him.
He's engaging himself to be a victim.
He's feeling a little vulnerable as well. When he's speaking, when you feel a bit vulnerable, you try to make dramatic.
Yes, I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. He's feeling. It's not easy exposing your kind of your fears and your loneliness, to someone. And John, like whatever we know of him, he's not. We know he's not somebody who's who can talk easily to people, who can open up easily about himself. So this is a very difficult conversation for someone like John. So what is he doing to kind of cover the awkwardness he must be feeling? One does that, no? You kind of adopt a deliberately sort of exaggerated tone, a kind of jocular tone, just to kind of mask how vulnerable and alone you really are feeling. Right? So here, that's what it seems to me. This deliberate kind of taking on of this high drama. I sing, I die, I weep, all of that. It's funny. He's saying this to sound funny, but also because he's feeling awkward about exposing himself in this way and talking about his vulnerability. Yeah, so he's kind of laid out his problem. He's laid it out on the table. Janet's response is, she's kind of she's hits the nail on the head. She comes to the heart of the matter. There is that long kind of story by John, but for her there's just a simple answer to that. You need a lover, John, I think. So very much like our Indian parents who think like her problem का solution is शादी, है ना? उसकी शादी करा दो तो सब ठीक हो जाएगा. So for her, for her too, this is the answer. You need a lover. Someone, I'd say, who's fun to be with. Why does she say that?
Because she is so that she can cheer him up.
So someone who should not be like John, no? Because that will not work. So this has to be someone who's different, who's a more cheerful, outgoing person than John. So someone who's fun to be with, and of course vitamin C to eat. Right, so what you also need are some more nutritional supplements to make you feel better, and choose a richer lens to see with. Right, so I mean that's really a lovely way to put it. In a way that one chooses the lenses that one looks at life with. Right, so choose a richer lens. Right, one that is not so narrowly focused on on your job and your looking after yourself and your health and making money and right, but life can be it can be a messy but also richer thing. Right, so try and open yourself up to that. Right, choose a richer lens to see with. Reach for a vision more complete. Trading that zoom for a wide angle. Yeah, so थोड़ा अपना perspective को open up करो. Don't let your drooping sunflower dangle its head upon the garden wall. It needs some watering. That's all. Yeah, so all you need is a little bit of care, a little bit of attention, and you will cheer up again. Right? You will perk up again. The fervor of her declamation induces her to drum a roll with her chopsticks upon her bowl. Yeah? So she's very pleased with herself. She thinks she's hit the nail on the head. She's got the solution, and she's a drummer, as we know. So she celebrates that moment by using her chopsticks to drum a roll. Don't put things off till it's too late. You are the DJ of your fate. Think of yourself a few years later. Now, I hope you've noticed all of these passages have run-on dialogues. Right? The dialogue is spilling over into the next one. It's continuing into the next one. Think of yourself a few years later, possessing as the years go on, less prepossessing vital data. Less prepossessing vital data? Vital statistics, how you look, what your figure is like, what your face is like, right? All of that information. Now, as you grow older, all of this will become less and less impressive. Yes, so now is the time to find a partner, right? While you're at your best, while you're at your peak, while you're still looking good and healthy and all of that. As you grow older, things start to change, and you become less and less attractive, right? So she's being very, very pragmatic as well, giving him very practical. Only a friend can tell you that, no? In that straightforward sort of way. So as the years go on, less prepossessing, less impressive vital data, love handles, right? So you're going to start putting on weight. In the parentheses are John's kind of embarrassed responses. Like he doesn't want to hear all this. This is not making him happy. So he's muttering, thanks a lot. Receding hairline, right? Your hair is going to go. Lonely and lost. Saw lover. Too much to drink last night. Right? So she's painting this very kind of bleak picture of his future, right? Where he'll be older, where he won't be as attractive, he'll be so lonely, he'll take to drinking, he'll just start drinking too much, nursing the dregs of your hangover, right? So you'll wake up every morning hungover, blubbering into your raisin bran, that's your breakfast cereal. So you'll be weeping into your cereal bowl every morning because you'll be so lonely and so on. Why not do something while you can? Yes, so it's a very persuasive sort of speech, right? Before time is before you lose too much time, take action now, right? Don't put things off. You are the DJ of your fate. But what, growls John, as this depressing directory drums on? Depressing directory drums on. What is this figure of speech?
Alliteration.
Alliteration. Where in a single sentence, the same alphabet is used multiple times, right? Words start with the same alphabet multiple times. This is a technique used very widely for poetic effect. So कोई ऐसा purpose नहीं है इसका. It doesn't necessarily do or achieve anything major except for create a more sort of pronounced sense of what is being described. Yes, so this depressing directory drums on, right? Sort of this, it kind of heightens the sense of irritation John must be feeling, right? This is someone who's going on and on with this litany of problems that are waiting in store for John, right? Painting a picture that is not at all nice, not at all happy of his future. Okay, you've got a point, enough BSing, suppose you're right. Well, what's the way to hook chicks? Okay, so that's his question then. Okay, maybe, agreed that what I need is a partner. Now what do I do about it? What is the way to hook chicks? Now that does not go down well with Janet. We see that she's a very, very strong person, a strong feminist. She takes great issue to this phrasing. Angrily and sadly, Jan looks at him. You'll blow it badly till you clean up your pig speak act. Right? You're talking like a pig. You're talking like an utter idiot. There's no way you're going to find a person, a girlfriend until you let go of this attitude. Oh, come now, don't overreact, Janet. You know I didn't mean it. Nor I suppose, did the crude, crass hall manager who pinched my ass last night. Cute chick. You should have seen it. I punched his snout. To hook a chick. Such porcine lingo makes me sick. So she's clearly very angry. Yes, there is a lot of animal imagery here. She sort of compares him repeatedly to a pig, right? For this porcine lingo, you're talking like a pig, you're acting like a pig. Now, one of the classic ways in which people get out of these situations, or the classic kind of response to these sort of conversations is to say, hey, relax. Why are you taking it so seriously, yaar? मैं तो मजाक ही कर रहा था. I didn't mean this. Why are you getting so worked up? Don't you have a sense of humor? I'm sure a lot of us must have heard it also, right? This is the classic response. Where's your sense of humor? What's wrong with you? Yeah? So to kind of to try and get away by saying the most obnoxious things and sort of justifying them as humor, right? It's in good fun, or I didn't mean it. In fact, again, I'm sure you know the most blatant kind of sexism makes an appearance in jokes. No, I mean, think of the jokes that go around. So many of the jokes we hear that come to us on our WhatsApp groups are about, they're very misogynist, no? A lot of them are about wives who are just so overbearing. The husband just wants to leave the wife. The wife is sort of takes control of everything. the poor husband is kind of trapped and wants to get away. Yes. These are all things that have become so much a part of our culture, right? And I mean, we see those jokes. Some of us may even laugh, but they are all coming from a deep-rooted sexism, right? In our society, which sees men and women in very different roles. Yes, and the relationship of marriage also is seen as where the woman has kind of trapped the male, while the male is just desperately trying to get out. So conversation again, as John says here. I mean, he did say it very casually. Where do I hook some? What is it he said? Hook chicks. Yes, so this objectification of women, right? Speaking about them in this manner. The response, of course, is I didn't mean it. Don't overreact. So classic sort of responses. So John is very much a creature of his time. I mean, he may be very well read and all of that, but he shares the sort of ideas and prejudices of his society.
In the beginning, we read that John already had a few girlfriends. So why did he ask that how to hook chicks?
How to hook chicks? Well, because he doesn't. I suppose the idea was. Yeah, that's a very precise, factual question. He had girlfriends while he was in college. Right, so it's much easier. It's much easier to find people when you're students, no? When you're studying together. But we know from John that he's gotten totally absorbed by his work. Yes, and doesn't have any time now to meet anyone. So that's the issue. So that's a warning for all of you as well. Okay, once you get caught up in your work lives, it does become quite all-consuming. Yes, so make the most of the time you have here. He's okay. So this exchange between Janet and John, and Janet's irritation with John. Is there anything that's not clear? Anything you'd like to say or add or? Okay, so Janet then, it kind of continues, John 1.27, John continuing to defend himself, a venial linguistic tumor. A venial sin is a sin that's not so serious. Okay, yes, so he's apologizing, yeah, I'm sorry, it was my mistake to say that, but it's a small mistake, you can forgive it. It's a venial linguistic tumor, right? It's just I just happen to use that word. It's not benign. So Janet is playing on the tumor, right? So it can't be forgiven so easily. It's not benign. But it was just a joke, Jan. Where's your sense of humor? And this is exactly the way these conversations go. It's dormant since last night. Yeah. So she is after that horrible encounter with this person who kind of arrested her. She's in no mood for this kind of humor. Why not to blame me for his roving trotter? Trotter is pig's foot. Right. So John is basically asking why are you blaming me for his his roving hand, the fact that he touched you inappropriately. It's not, don't punish me for that. I haven't done anything. Because sweet ostrich, it was not a harmless joke. Why does she call him ostrich?
They bury their heads in sand.
That's what they are known for. They bury their heads in sand. So here again, wake up, look at the world around you. Don't be an ostrich and so it was not a harmless joke. Right? It's always under the cover of these so-called harmless jokes that the most blatant sexism thrives, in society. Enough said, John, you've got my drift. I won't go on. Then John, I donned machismo just to rile you. Donned machismo? I took on this pose of being a very, cool, macho guy, talking about booking chicks. So I did that just to annoy you. But that's not what I'm like. Right? So he's kind of trying to make amends, trying to get her in a better mood, trying to pacify her. Sorry, Jan. Friends. So friends, of course, you fool. How can you doubt it? Though I think I'll file you under male repentant pig. John takes her hand and she swigs. So they've kind of made up. They're friends again. But the standard, of course, is male chauvinist pig. No, that's the classic MCP. But she's put him in a slightly better category, male repentant pig. But you are repentant. You are sorry for your stupidity. We need first off, says Janet dryly, a venue to begin from. So she's now getting to the matter at hand. John, we need to find someone for John. How do we do it? First of all, we need to figure out where to look. Your office, John, she ventures slyly. Any nice women? Right, so that's her first question. And that would be the logical place to start. No? Your workplace, not too hot. John's not too impressed with the women in his office. Any nice guys? Oh, come on, Janet. I just don't go for that. So, can it? Okay, so he's again very much in keeping with John's sort of very straight-laced personality. He's not gay, but he's also he's appalled at the idea of it also. कि तुमने सोचा भी कैसे? That. So no, absolutely not. So I just don't go for it. So can it, trash it, bin it, right? Just throw this thought out of here. There's no way. Well, don't knock what you haven't tried. Right? So Janet is much more relaxed, right? She's like, well, if you haven't tried it, you don't know whether you are or not. Okay, John is not amused. John stirs his overstirred stir-fried vegetables. The repetition again, stir, overstirred vegetables for answer. Thinking. So he's just thinking now. Maybe this is not. Maybe I shouldn't have started this conversation because Janet is just too weird. Huh? She's had too much. She's had too much to drink. Should I suggest we stop at this one? No, it's best to keep the peace. But when she's drinking, she talks about the weirdest things. Guys with guys, wheels with wheels. So to him, this is, a gay relationship is as unthinkable, as unimaginable as the idea of a pig with wings. So everything about John that we've got to know, that conservatism, yes, the very straight and narrow sort of life that he follows. So in somebody like for a personality like him, any kind of deviant, well, not deviant, any kind of behavior that doesn't fit in with the mainstream would be completely a no-no. Yes. While Janet, on the other hand, is a rebel and relishes it. Right? She doesn't care for norms. In fact, she enjoys breaking them. Yes? So Janet now is giving him other possibilities, other options. ठीक है, office में कोई नहीं है, तो how about ever tried seeking Aphrodite in a museum? Aphrodite is the Greek goddess of love. Yes, so have you ever sought this goddess in a museum? John cries, Christ, haven't I just? With based volition, I've gaped at Goya, ogled Titian, loitered by Rubens with intent. So these are all famous painters. And so this is something John has tried, and we know that he's quite an intellectual kind of person, right? He likes to read, he likes to go and see art. So he has tried that. He has gone and gone to art galleries and museums. He's looked at lots of paintings, but but to date not made a dent in the cool academic armor the women wandering through these halls assume. Yeah, so he does see women in museums, but he has not been able to get through to any of them. Right? They don't show any interest in him whatsoever. They look very academic and very sort of focused, and he's they've not responded in any way. We stare at paint and walls, but not a words exchanged. Right? Nothing has happened there. I gave it up eventually. My weekends mean too much to me. So then, of course, she asks him, your weekends, well, how do you spend them? What do you do on your weekends? If you don't have any company, if you don't have any friends or family, what does one do on a weekend? John thinks, where do my weekends go? Oh, things go wrong. I have to mend them. A plug, the plumbing, the purger, the car. A stone stuck in the electric mower. And I'm a regular movie goer. Whenever there's a decent show, I try to make the time and go. Last week I saw Buster Keaton. I think he's great. He never smiles. Then home to catch up on my files, a can of chili, when I've eaten the late night news, and so to bed. John looks forlorn, as this is said. Right, so this is his weekend routine. Yes, a bit depressing. Yes, he's really basically spending all that time just with himself. Yes? And this, I go home, I catch up on my files. Right? So he brings work home. He's working on the weekends as well. Buster Keaton is a comedian, a comic actor of the silent era. Right? So he, like Charlie Chaplin, like Laurel and Hardy. Yes, so that phase. Have you seen any Buster Keaton films? But so that's true. Also Chaplin, no, they don't ever smile themselves. Keaton always had a very grim face, but he was always going, he would be going through the funniest of situations. So the comedy really came from that contrast between his face, which had utter seriousness, but constantly getting embroiled in all kinds of hilarious situations. So yeah, that is John's routine. I guess my weekends aren't too sprightly after all. Right? So he's aware of how sort of boring his life is. Jan with a kiss. Poor little rich boy. Yeah, there's an element of sarcasm in her sympathy for him. Murmurs lightly, we've got to put a stop to this. There has to be a swift solution to this impasse. Electrocution. So John's the only solution he can think of is, should I just kill myself? I could jump off the Golden Gate. Wait, I've got it, John. I read in the Bay Garden. So the moment he mentions the newspaper, Janet immediately has an idea. Wait, I've got it, John. The perfect answer. I should have thought of it. My friend, your sufferings are at an end. That sounds as terminal as cancer. Let's hear it. With a tame surmise, he listens. So he's kind of hopefully listening, right? He's hoping she has the answer, even though he's not quite sure he'll like it, but he's ready to, hope for the best. Jan says, advertise. Okay, now this is of course a world before the internet, right? When all kinds of romantic dealings as well as marriage proposals were all kind of done through the newspaper. Have you ever seen those matrimonial pages? I don't even know if they come anymore. But they used to in all the newspapers, pages upon pages. In India, typically they were matrimonial, right? So usually the adverts were put by parents for their children, for their sons or daughters. In the West, these would be for dating, and not put by parents, but by people themselves, where you kind of. I guess now it's done on those apps. Whatever they are. I mean, I keep hearing about people sort of swipe right or swipe left or whatever. So this is it's an earlier version of that. What? Advertise? You must be joking. Now, for someone like John, you can understand the huge stigma attached to something like advertising, right? Where you're kind of the very word advertise. Yes, you're putting yourself out there. You're telling you're coming out before the world and kind of proclaiming your aloneness, yes, your need. That is not something that many people would be comfortable with, and certainly not someone like John. So here, he's the very thought kind of horrifies him. You must be joking. I'm serious. Jan, you're nuts. I'm not. You know, Jan, you've had such a soaking in Tsingtao, you don't know what's what. And Tsingtao is the beer they're drinking, right? You're drunk. You're talking nonsense. Me advertise? You must be kidding. Kiddo, I'm not. Just do my bidding, right? Just do what I say. Take out an ad right now, today. Young, handsome yuppie seeks. So typically that's how these ads are worded. Yuppie? Who's a yuppie? It's slang for young urban professional. So these advertisements, because you had to pay by, you paid by the number of words, the number of letters. So they were very telegraphic. So there were lots of these acronyms and short forms, right? So a yuppie is exactly what John is, a young urban professional, upper middle class, well educated, someone who believes in earning money, right? For whom earning money, financial success is very, very important. Right? Someone who wants to look a certain way, look successful, drive the right kind of car, wear the right kind of clothes, have the right brands, right? So that's the kind of person John is, and that's typically a yuppie. Delhi is sort of populated with yuppies. They are the only people you see wherever you go. So she's trying to create that ad for him. For John, just that just those words. Like, no way. I've always thought your schemes, though wacky, remained within the bounds of taste. But as for this one, talk of tacky. Right? He can't think of anything worse, more tackier, more unacceptable than an ad. Let's talk of something else instead. Young yuppie, better dead than read. And so rather than have someone read this, rather this guy. The family at the next table are listening in with interest.
What's
So
this
this
small
is,
setting? What's the year? What's the decade?
sorry, say again?
When is this novel written? Like this whole
Oh, in the 80s, no? It's written in the 1980s.
91.
It won this award in 1989. So it must have been written in 86. First published in 1986.
And there was a reference to Buster Keaton. I think he died in 1965.
A reference to?
Like, this guy went to watch a movie of Buster Keaton, right?
Hmm.
But that guy died 20 years back. So, so is there any like how he likes to watch old movies or something?
Yeah, so he likes to watch classic cinema, no? So yes, I mean there is very much in keeping with John's kind of personality, no? He reads these old authors like Thomas Hardy and so on. He watches old films. He goes to art galleries and museums. So yes, that's in keeping with. Yeah, so Buster Keaton, like I said, belonged to the silent film period. So yes, he likes old films. Sorry, was that your question?
I want to know.
So the family at the next table are obviously very interested. It's a very interesting conversation. Um, so they're trying to catch as much of it as they can. But John, at least when you feel able, why don't you put it to the test? Right? So no harm trying it. Give it a try. What's the harm and so on. But it's so desperate, so demeaning. Right? That's exactly John's problem, right? It's really kind of putting your neediness out there, right? It's so desperate, it's so demeaning. Johnny boy, your mind needs cleaning of the debris of prejudice, right? So for Jan, he's just, he's just prejudice. Debris is kachra, right? So your mind has a lot of kachra in it and it needs to be cleaned. Jan, what has that to do with this, right? What is, and why are you calling me prejudiced? How is this prejudiced? Its definition is, states Janet, judging a thing before it's tried. Right? So she's very right. So that is the definition of prejudice: judging something or someone before getting to know what they're about. Right? So similarly, by being so anti this prospect of putting an ad before he's even tried it, he's being prejudiced. John argues back, but it's the same for suicide or blowing up the planet. Why should I try it first to see if it agrees with me or not? And so I think it's really wonderful how the rhythms of conversation, how this banter, this very easy banter, this back and forth banter between two good friends is kind of maintained, while at the same time maintaining the very rigid and tight meter, rhyme scheme, sonnet sequence, the sonnet structure. Okay, so it's really a marvelous kind of balancing act, to pull off. But so John's kind of hesitation, his qualms, but he's not even able to he's not even able to find the right words, about why that sense of distaste for doing something like this. And then he tries to put it in words. It's a meat market, Jan. Yes, it's the whole idea of kind of, in a way, you're kind of selling yourself, right? Or you're offering yourself up as a commodity, in a sense. Yes, it's a meat market. Goats and monkeys, bears, bulls, bidders, buyers, grab me while you can. Yeah, so again, that exaggerated tone that we know John can adopt. So this is like, putting yourself out there for sale. DWJSM 50. He's kind of quoting from some ad, or this is typically how these ads go. And by the way, a lot of such ads would also be quite raunchy, right? Quite what's the word I want? Sort of for people to, sorry, yeah. Yeah, provocative, for people to just kind of hook up, right? People who may not really be looking for a serious relationship, but just, just to have a casual sexual fling, right? So a lot of ads did also fulfill that purpose, right? So John, of course, is a man of fine tastes, as we know. So this is not something he would want to do. So he just quotes an ad. DWJSM. So these sort of acronyms: divorced, white. J, I don't know, might be Jewish. Divorced, white. SM, single male. 50 seeks. He's describing himself: solvent, sexy, thrilling, thrifty. Seeks a bosomy brunette who likes to play the flageolet. The flageolet is a recorder. So I'll leave you to figure out the double meanings. Let me make music with you. Box 69. So that's sort of typically how I mean, this is like the worst kind of example, a very shady, sleazy sort of example of a personal ad. I will not share a column with such types out there. Right? That is John's problem. I am not like that, and I will not share a column with such types out there. How would you think I'd do it? Maybe you see me as male 26 who gets his thrills from hooking chicks. Is that how you look at me? Is that what you think of me? Janet picks up her fortune cookie, then puts it down, turns to her friend. Don't bank too much on you. Your rookie season is drawing to an end. So this is a continuation of what she had said earlier, right? Your rookie season is drawing to an end. John, things we would, when young, not think of, start to make sense when, on the brink of 30 done, we pause to scan what salads and salads cannot ban. Salads and salads, sort of potions, creams, salads, healthy eating. All of this, however well we may take care of ourselves, what is undeniable is that age does catch up with us. Yes, we start, we do age. The earliest furrows on our faces, the loneliness within our souls, our febrile clawing for mean goals, our programmed cockfights and rat races, our dreary dignity, false pride, and hearts stored in formaldehyde. Yes, so she suddenly becomes quite, her concern, her great concern for John makes her quite kind of passionate and poetic right now. Life will go by quickly, and before you know it, you will be, middle-aged and lonely, and with no one around you. You don't want to be in a state like that. Please don't get into such a situation. Time sidles by. On television, the soaps dissolve, the jingles change. The soaps dissolve, the soap operas, I think she's referring to, right? So things keep changing, the advertisements change. Defeat or pity or derision constricts our hearts. Our looks grow strange even to us, right? We start looking different. One day you look at yourself in the mirror and you can't recognize yourself, right? You've aged. The grail, perfection, dims, and we come to view rejection. Now, it's slightly complex, but just try and pay attention. The grail is the holy grail. Yes, the coveted, the knights of King Arthur, who kind of chased down this cup, right, which is it's called the Holy Grail. The point is, this is your goal, okay? So the goal, what is the goal you have in mind? Perfection, right? A perfect life with the perfect person, who you meet in the perfect way, right? Without having to go looking for that person, without having to put ads, right? That's what you're looking for in life. But this goal, this grail, perfection, dims, and we come to view rejection as an endurable result of hope and trial, and exult when search or risk or effort chances to grant us someone who will do for love and who may love us too. While those who wait as age advances, aloof from Miss Right or Mr. Right, weep to themselves in the still night. So what is she saying? What is she saying here? You have to put in efforts, and don't look for perfection. Don't wait for perfection, because perfection may not come. And just sort of be more realistic. Be more realistic. Maybe it's just enough to find someone who will do. he or she may not be the person of your dreams, may not be the perfect person you've been waiting for, but is good, is good enough, and who also believes that you are good enough for them, and maybe that's, so maybe just make your expectations more realistic. Yes, because age does not do us any favors, right? Time is passing by. So, and rejection is an endure. If you're afraid of being rejected by some women, maybe that's not such a terrible thing. It's okay. Maybe you'll get rejected by some people. Maybe you'll reject some people. But eventually, if you manage to find someone with whom you have a reasonable connection, maybe that's good, maybe that's enough. So don't have these unrealistic sort of hopes from life, and don't wait for perfection, because it may not come, it may never come. And if those who hold themselves aloof, like those who keep waiting for Mr. or Miss Right, weep to themselves in the still night, right? You may just end up being completely sad and alone. Can I just take 5 more minutes, and we'll wrap up. It's sad to see you look so lonely. That's all, John. Yeah. So at the end of that very passionate sort of invocation to John, to be practical, to be realistic. The bottom line really is that she wants to help him. She wants him to change his life. She wants him to be happier, right? It's sad to see you look so lonely. That's all, John. John does not confute Jan's passionate words, right? So finally, John also doesn't argue back, doesn't contradict. Please, no murmuring, please. It's very distracting. He thinks, if only things were that simple. Moved and mute. Moved. He's moved because of, he's moved by Janet's evident, care for him, and finally doesn't have anything to say. He's not protesting anymore. Moved and mute, he sits and stares as little bubbles fizz in his beer. Well, I'm a lucky man to have a true friend like you, Jan. You may be right, but if I do it, who knows what sort of person I'll wind up with? He attempts to smile but fails. I can't pursue it. I'm sorry that I'm such a pain. It simply goes against my grain. Yes, so he has, at this point, he has at least tried to consider it, but still feels that this is not for him, right? This is not something that will work for him. Eventually, he does change his mind, and he does meet someone through advertising. But at this point, he says no. Right? We'll just come directly to the last stanza, 1.41. Their meeting is over. They've decided to go their ways now. John kisses Janet swiftly, lightly. The waiter sets the check by John. Jan frowns. Any idea why?
Assuming that he would pay the bill.
Always, that's something that always happens. The waiter always brings the check to the mail, and Jan, we know, is not someone who likes that. But right now, she decides not to bring it up. Right? She's just let it go. Jan frowns. They pay, and Jan politely thanks him and leaves a tip upon the cookie plate. She thinks, why bother? There's always something or the other. Yes, this is a feeling that a lot of people, a lot of women often feel, right? Kitna lagoge, kitna, it's okay, let it go. There's always something or the other. And even good men of goodwill, right? So even supposedly nice people, decent guys, can also behave in very stereotypical and sexist ways. Yes, so how much can you fight? Poor guy, he kept him waiting. So I think she may have considered having an argument with the waiter, but then she decides against him. It's like, poor guy, we kept him waiting. Still, I wish, but what's the use? It's trivial, I guess. Right? So reluctantly, she decides to drop the issue, not make a point of it. When John attempts to hold the door for her, she thinks, why scold him for such slips? Now again, that also is not something she likes, that kind of gentlemanly behavior, holding doors open for women. But again, she decides to let it go. It's fine, why scold him? It's been convivial, part with a smile, right? So our meetings come to an end, let me hold my way. They smile and part in friendship with a lightened heart. So, like I said, I hope some of you will feel desirous of continuing the story and reading, getting to know what happens to these characters. But for the purposes of this class, we'll stop. We move on to our short story next time. Please read it and come. And now, after the attendance, we'll go to 510 for the tutorial.
मैम उनको बोल सकते हैं अटेंडेंस यहाँ लीजिए मैम सर को बोल सकते हैं अटेंडेंस यहाँ पे करवा ले अटेंडेंस
You want to be in the Thursday group. But you've been allotted the Thursday group. You haven't been allotted the Friday. So then you say that. So you need तो सब इतने बड़े क्लास के लिए नहीं है 150 स्टूडेंट्स कोई सेकेंड ईयर में है कोई थर्ड ईयर में
लिस्ट में लिखा है खाली अगर तब को बाढ़ खाली
जो एम स्लॉट के लिए ऐसा वो टाइम टेबल में ही नहीं बना it's about that M slots are not given for the bonus slot and they have to be found. A को मिलता है M को मिलता है A का slot है 1 PM every day 1 to 2 PM but M का कोई नहीं. So because this works for almost everyone. Nobody has anything after 6:30. So this seems like the most convenient time. Are you the one who has to travel back? आप कहाँ से आते हो? हॉस्टल में क्यों नहीं रहते?
कैब को मार रहे थे यहाँ पे रहना उन्होंने बात की वहाँ तो वहाँ पे एक ही रहता
टाइम आपका लगता है मतलब I think that this is a good time and it has worked in the past for everyone, right? So that's why I mean personally I have no issues with this time, and it seems like the rest of the class also. I mean, I can allow you to leave a few minutes early. It's just once a week.
डिस्कशन नहीं कैसे होता है?
ये सर पहले
हाँ
पहले ही है
नहीं कौन कौन हमारे ऑफिस से किसी में है ठीक है
हमारे जो
1.5 है
मैं
इसमें किसने और इसमें 1.5 है मैं याद रखता हूँ कंप्लीट असाइनमेंट इज कंप्लीट है ना ये हां मैं एंट्रोपी लिखा था मैं अभी एंट्रोपी
इसके बाद
अपना कार्ड जमा करके
Last year.